the nigga that shot my nigga, but he ain't standing though. And I heard he died and I survived, so what you panic for? All of my life I've been wild and couldn't control it, and my mama couldn't control me.
The court can consider that along with the police report and disturbing photographs of abuse to your minor child by the victim in this case. On the day of the incident, Ms. Johnson, I believe that you took all the necessary steps to ensure your safety after Mr. Smith had threatened to inflict bodily harm upon you. And it does not matter that you stayed out all night, or even if you stayed out for a week and leaving your children with whomever. That does not constitute that somebody would threaten you with serious bodily injury. Ms. Johnson, you called the alarm company, you called local law enforcement, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And when law enforcement arrived, they allowed you, the 2 people in this situation, to go into the home unescorted without any cooling off period, which resulted in the loss of Mr. DeMonte Smith and resulted in your conviction for voluntary manslaughter. So when considering the aggravating and mitigating circumstances of this case, the court is required to impose a sentence that is sufficient but not greater than necessary. So Ms. Johnson, I will sentence you as follows. As to voluntary manslaughter, I will sentence you to 20 years to serve 10 years in confinement. The first 5 years of those 10 years to be served in prison, and the remaining 5 years to be served as home confinement. The remaining 10 years of the 20-year sentence will be served on probation. Special conditions of the 5 years of home confinement is that you must be fully employed. You can only leave your house for work, medical appointments, school, and for minor children, school appointments, minor children's therapy appointments, and minor children's school-sponsored activities. The hours of your work, school, and medical are only to be between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., and there is to be no one at your home at any time during the duration of your sentence who has a felony conviction. As to count 3, the aggravated assault, it will merge into count 2, voluntary manslaughter by operation of law. As to count 4, aggravated assault, I will sentence you to 10 years to serve, to run concurrent with count 2. As to count 5, the possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, I will sentence you to 5 years to serve consecutive suspended. As to count 6, cruelty to children in the 3rd degree, with the victim being Nyla Clark, I will sentence you to 12 months of probation to run concurrent with count 2. Special conditions of probation is that the minor child is to see a licensed therapist, counselor, or psychologist twice a month for 12 months, and that you are to attend and successfully complete parenting classes for 12 months. As to count 7, cruelty to children in the 3rd degree with Nuri Clark, I will sentence you to 12 months on probation. Conditions of probation, special conditions of probation are that that minor child also is to see a licensed therapist, counselor, or psychologist twice a month for 12 months, and that you are to complete parenting classes. I will sentence you under the First Offender Act, and I need to advise you, Ms. Johnson, of your rights post-conviction. Ms. Johnson, you have the right to seek post-judgment relief from your conviction of the crimes of voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, cruelty to children in the third degree, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, by either making a motion for a new trial in this court and/or filing an appeal to a higher appellate court. If you want to file a motion for a new trial or appeal, then you would need to file the said motion or notice of appeal with the Clerk of Superior Court of this county, DeKalb County, within 30 days. You may want to more fully discuss this with your attorney. If a motion for new trial is made and the court denies it, you will have 30 days from the filing of the order of denial in which to file with the clerk of court your notice of appeal. Ms. Johnson, you have a right to have an attorney represent you on the motion for new trial and the first level of direct appellate review. And if you cannot afford to hire an attorney, the court will provide you an attorney and a transcript of your trial at no cost. Ms. Johnson, in a felony, you have a period of 4 years from the date of your sentence in this court. It becomes final to file a habeas corpus petition. And with the misdemeanors, you have a period of 1 year from the date of your sentence in this court. It becomes final to file a habeas corpus petition. Do you have any questions for the court, Ms. Johnson?
I don't.
Okay.
Judge, would you explain to Ms. Johnson what it means to be sentenced under first offender?
So, Ms. Johnson, under the first offender statute for your sentence, so in this matter of the state of Georgia versus Quenisha Johnson, the defendant has requested a sentence under First Offender Act. The court has approved that request and will hold adjudication and will hereby impose the following terms under the First Offender Act, which I have placed on the record. Ms. Johnson, if you, as a defendant sentenced under the first offender, violate the terms of this sentence, the court may enter adjudication of guilt and proceed to sentence you to the maximum sentence provided by law in this matter. And I believe that is the maximum sentence would be 20 years to serve in custody for voluntary manslaughter, up to 20 years to serve in custody for count 4, the aggravated assault, 12 months in custody for counts 6 and 7, separately for the cruelty to children in the third degree, and 5 years to serve consecutive for the possession of the firearm during the commission of a felony. However, if you are so sentenced, you will be, however, in this case, you will receive credit for the time that you have served. And if you successfully complete your sentence under the First Offender Act, you will not have a conviction for the crimes in this case. I believe I explained.
That's in your honor. And then I just want to make sure Ms. Johnson gets credit for the time she had served when she was initially arrested and then the rearrest on her.
In a peaceful neighborhood in Lithonia, Georgia, a tale of love, tragedy, and deadly decisions unfolds. This is the story of Quenisha Nicole Johnson, a 30-year-old woman whose actions changed lives forever. It was a fateful day in November when everything changed. Quenisha found herself at her home on Edenberry Lane, with her 3 children present. But this wasn't just any day, it was a day that would forever alter the lives of those involved.
As to count 1, malice, murder, we, the jury, find Quenisha Johnson not guilty. As to count 2, felony murder, we, the jury, find the defendant, Quenisha Johnson, guilty of voluntary manslaughter. As to count 3, aggravated assault, family violence. We, the jury, find the defendant, Quenisha Johnson, guilty. As to count 4, aggravated assault, family violence, we, the jury, find the defendant, Quenisha Johnson, guilty. As to count 5, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, we, the jury, find defendant, Quenisha Johnson, guilty. As to count 6, cruelty to children in the 3rd degree, we, the jury, find the defendant, Quenisha Johnson, guilty. As to count 7, cruelty to children in the 3rd degree, we, the jury, find the defendant, Quenisha Johnson, guilty.
Thank you. And is that signed and dated by you as the foreperson?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
The DeKalb County District Attorney's Office revealed that Quenisha was sentenced to 20 years for the death of DeMonte Smith, the father of one of her children. The incident shocked the community, especially considering the presence of children during the tragic event. Quenisha faced a series of charges, including voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, cruelty to children, and possession of a firearm during a felony. These charges reflected the grim reality of the choices she made that day. The events leading up to that tragic day were marked by a night of clubbing and leaving her children with DeMonte Smith. As the morning dawned, DeMonte expected Quenisha to return, but she was nowhere to be found. Concern grew as DeMonte learned that Quenisha had been involved in a physical altercation at the club the previous night. Worried about her safety, he attempted to contact her multiple times but received no response. As hours passed, Quenisha finally turned her phone back on and discovered messages from DeMonte. A heated exchange ensued, leading to a conference call involving family members. The tension escalated, and DeMonte expressed anger and threatened Quenisha. Seeking resolution, Quenisha called for a police escort to her home. Upon her return, police officers were present, advising her to place her firearm in her car. The situation intensified as DeMonte confronted Quenisha in front of the officers. Attempts to de-escalate the situation were met with resistance. Despite police efforts, Quenisha's anger and combative behavior persisted. Tragically, a sequence of events unfolded that led to DeMonte's demise. In a moment of fatal decision-making, Quenisha grabbed a metal tire rod and her gun, returning to the house. An altercation ensued, resulting in DeMonte being struck by the tire rod and fatally shot. The gunshot rang out, capturing the heartbreaking moment on a 911 recording. DeMonte's life was cut short, leaving a void in the lives of those who loved him. During her trial, Quenisha's defense was that she acted in self-defense due to past threats. The court found her guilty of voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, cruelty to children, and firearm possession. Judge Shondiana Morris acknowledged Quenisha's efforts to ensure her safety from DeMonte's threats. She also highlighted the police's role in the events, expressing that their decision to allow the two back into the house without a cooling-off period contributed to the tragic outcome.
And where do you currently reside?
In Atlanta, Georgia.
And where did you reside before that?
796 Mary Lane in Atlanta, Georgia.
And tell me, Ms. Johnson, what do you do for a living?
I work with autistic kids. I'm a behavioral health technician.
And what did you do before that?
I was working at 8 hours for hookah, doing hookah.
Okay. How long have you lived at your current address?
Since March of this year.
796 Edenberry address, how long did you live there?
A year.
Do you remember when you moved into that home?
December 1st of 2021.
And was that a rental property or a house you owned?
It was a rental property.
And were you the primary person on the lease?
I was.
You were the one who signed the lease?
I am.
And were you the one who paid the rent every month at that property?
Yes, I was.
Were all the utilities and everything in your name?
Yes, they was.
Ms. Johnson, you know why you're here today?
I do.
I want to talk about the incident that brings you here today. I want to take you back to November 26, 27 of 2022, okay?
Okay.
Do you remember the night, November 26, 2022?
I do.
Tell us what happened that night.
I was home studying for my RBT certificate. I get a phone call from my girlfriend on a three-way FaceTime call, inviting me to go out for one of their birthdays. I agree to go out. I get up, I prepare to get dressed to go outside. During our conversation, we was getting dressed, whatever. During our conversation, I let Demonte know where I was going. That was it. I got ready to go. I leave out. We go to one club.
Well, let's go back.
Okay.
Tell us approximately what time it is at night.
11, like 10 or 11.
About 11 o'clock at night on November 26th.
Correct.
Okay. And DeMonte's at the house with you?
He was.
And what about your kids?
They were there as well.
And where were they at that point?
My two daughters were asleep in their room, and my newborn was with Demonte.
Okay. Was the newborn asleep at that point?
She was.
Was she asleep in the crib?
She was.
And so you get the call 11 o'clock at night, you get dressed, you let DeMonte know where you're going. What happens after that?
I leave to go out. We go to one club,
What was the name of the club?
Zari.
Okay.
We're there, just partying. We leave that club around 2, go to the after hour, which is the after hour that I was working at.
And what's the name of the place you were working?
It's called Taste.
Okay.
We get there, we're there for about an hour. My girlfriends and another coworker gets into an altercation. I go to the bathroom, I communicate the altercation with Demonte. We stay for a little bit longer. They get into the altercation reoccurred. They now about to fight. We leave the after hour.
Let's go back. About what time is this when you communicate with DeMonte about the altercation?
Now this is about 4.
Okay. And when you say communicate, was it a text message or a phone call?
I called him. I went to the bathroom and called him.
And was he up at 4 a.m.?
He was.
Okay. And you actually talked to him?
I did.
And then what happens after that?
He advised me that he was going to send someone to make sure I was okay. I let him know I was okay. It wasn't me that was in the fight. It was my girlfriends, and then we were leaving. And I was sharing my location with him.
And what did you do next?
I shared my location with him. We left. Me and my girlfriends met up at the local gas station because my car needed gas to figure out where we were going to go next because I didn't want to go home.
Now, tell us, what was your relationship to DeMonte at this time?
He was my baby father.
Okay. Was he living with you at this time?
He was staying there. He had him living there.
Tell me what you mean by staying.
So when I say staying, so when we get back to when I had my daughter, because that's how it leads up to him staying there. So he was incarcerated. He got incarcerated in August. I got a phone call back in August of his incarceration. I helped him get out or whatever. And when he gets out late September, he expresses he had nowhere to go. That the house that he was staying to prior to getting incarcerated, he couldn't stay there no more because his friend's mom was tripping, is what he said. I had the baby. I did allow him to come, to be with the baby and stay there since he had nowhere to go.
Okay. And while you're out that particular night, did you have anything to drink?
I did.
What did you drink?
Casamigos,
How much?
probably like 2 or 3 shots.
And was it at the first place or the second place?
That was at the first place.
And did you have anything to drink at the second location?
I did.
So after you let him know the altercation at the second location, tell him you'll drop the location, where do you go next? What happens next?
We go to an hour called Future.
Now, is that the spot you worked at?
No, I worked at Taste. The Future is a different hour.
And about what time is it now?
It's about 6, maybe roughly 7.
So this is an after hours
yes.
spot. Okay. And do you have your phone on you?
I do.
Tell us what happens next.
Upon arriving to Taste, I leave. I have 2 phones. I left one phone in the car because it has the audio malfunction. I can't hear out of it. I take my personal phone inside the club with me. I get there. I'm smoking hookah. My phone dies while I'm in there. Once my phone dies, I leave.
Why do you have 2 phones?
Because I own a clothing line.
Okay. And there's one phone business and one phone personal?
Correct.
So you left your business phone in your car and took your personal phone inside?
Yes.
And you said while you were in there, your phone died?
Yes.
Do you remember what time or around what time you realized that your phone had died?
I don't, because it was dead.
But at some point, you realize your phone is dead, and is that when you leave the club?
Yes.
All right, tell us what happens after that.
I leave the club, I go back to my car, I immediately put my phone on the charger.
What time is it when you actually realize what time is it? What time is it? Or around what time is it?
Around 9 something.
Okay. And tell us what happens next.
My phone cuts on. I'm seeing the text messages from my aunts, a few text messages from Dolo. I open my aunt's text messages. I look for the first ones on there. As I'm reading the messages, my aunt's call. I answer the phone call. It's my aunt.
What's Rochelle's last name?
Noel
And what's Andrea's last name?
Gonzalez.
Okay.
We're all on the through right now. Andrea's hysterical. She's, where the F have you been? Dodo said you was in a fight. I've been calling hospitals, police departments. I reassured them that Demonte had my location, and I let them know where I was and that everything was okay. As I'm letting them know that everything's okay, Rochelle adds Dolo into the Demonte into the phone call.
So Rochelle, so now it's you on the phone, your aunt Rochelle Newell, your aunt Andrea Gonzalez, and then Rochelle adds DeMonte Smith onto the phone call.
Yes.
Okay. And what happens next?
Demonte gets on the phone. He gets on there very. Sorry, connect. Where the F you been at? You tripping? You think I'm a lame? I tell him, I said, you know where I've been at, you have my location. He then says, when you get here, I'm gonna meet you A. And hangs up.
And both your aunts were on the phone.
Yes.
And this happened while all 4 of you are on the phone.
Yes.
And then he hangs up.
Yes.
Tell us what happens after that.
After he hangs up, my aunt is now against her. I know he just said that. I tell her, don't worry about it, I'm gonna call the police. I grab my business phone and I immediately call 911.
Okay. And what happens next?
I call 911. I let them know that I'm en route to my home. That I just received a verbal, and the text. At the time, I see the text message of him text me that he was going to be my ASS on crib. I then let them know I'm receiving verbal and text messages threats stating that I'm gonna get beaten when I get home by my boyfriend. Well, I tell him at the time my boyfriend, and that I was scared to go home and I needed authorities to help me.
Now, was there any reason why you took these threats seriously?
Yes, because not even 2 weeks ago, he followed through with his threats before.
Okay. When you say he followed through with his threats, what do you mean?
Around 2 weeks ago, prior to the 26th, I was working at the Taste restaurant at the hour, and he threatened to beat my ASS again. And when I came in the house, he was coming down the steps and he then slammed me on my face.
Okay. When you say Judge made the witness step down?
Yes.
I want you to show us what happened prior to that. You can use me.
So I'm coming to the house. I come to the house at first.
Ms. Johnson, you need to speak up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm coming in the house. As I come in the house, I'm thinking like he's hiding behind the door. I look behind the door. He wasn't behind the door. He was actually coming down the steps. He came. Right. So he's coming down the steps. When I walked in the door, he went like this, hand me on my face, and he still has my coat. And he's like this, like this, he's like saying stuff to me. I start to cry. Once I start crying, he then gets off and I tell him he has to go.
Yeah, you can go back up. And Ms. Johnson, after that incident, so he slams you on your face, is over you, shaking you, and when did he stop?
When I began to cry,
And did you call police?
I did.
What did you do next?
I asked him to leave. I went upstairs and I contacted his mom, or tried to contact his mom.
I'm going to show her, Your Honor, what's marked as defense exhibit 1. You take a look at this, Ms. Johnson. Do you recognize that text message exchange?
I do.
And who was that text message exchange between?
Myself and Demonte's mother.
And is that text message the same message you sent Demonte's mother the day that he slammed you on your face?
Yes.
Has anything been changed or altered about it at all?
No.
Is it in the same or similar condition as when you sent that text message?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, we will move to admit defense exhibit 1, text message between Ms. Johnson and Demonte's mother into evidence.
Any objections?
Yes, Judge. May we approach?
With the redaction, is it without objection?
Ms. Johnson, what's the date on that text message?
Sunday, November 13th, 2022.
And that text message was to Mr. Demonte Smith's mother?
Yes.
Tell us what you told Mr. Smith's mother.
That Demonte had slammed me on my face, on the ground, on my face, and I was trying not to take it too far.
And why don't you read the text message exactly for us, just the one you sent?
Demonte just slammed me to the ground on my face. I'm trying not to take this too far annoying situation. Can you please call and have him take a walk and give me some space right now, please?
And this was right after the incident you just showed us?
Immediately after.
And when you text his mom, I know his situation, what did you mean?
Him just getting released from jail.
And when you said I didn't want to take it too far, what did you mean?
Calling authorities, getting him rearrested.
So on the night of November, I guess the morning, so that happened, what was the date again?
November 13th at 6:28 a.m.
So on the morning of November 27th, when you see these text messages and are on the phone with your aunt and get these verbal threats, is that why you took it so seriously?
Absolutely.
And you called 911.
Immediately.
And tell us what happens after you call 911.
When I called 911 and let them know that I was receiving threats verbally and through text messages, I asked him to escort me home because I was scared for my life. I did let them know that he did prior to this threat, threatened me prior to this and followed through with it. He followed through with his threat prior. They told me that they would dispatch someone to come out and that was it.
And then what happened after that?
And then minutes later, I get a call from Officer Amy on her personal phone. I answered her. She lets me know that she was at my location, meaning at my home. I tell her that I'm en route. She asks me to give her basically like a summary of what was going on. I informed her that I was receiving threats from my baby father and that he had prior to this incident put his hands on me. She asked me if he lives with me. I told him that he just got out of jail and that he stays there. And she tells me that she'll be there or she'll see when I get there basically.
Okay. And about how far were you from your house when you talked to, so you talked to 911 and then you talked to Officer Lamy directly. And then about how far were you from your house when you talked to Officer Lamy?
Probably about 15 minutes too.
Okay. And then tell us what happens And where are you still on the phone with your aunts at this time?
I was on the phone the whole entire time. My aunts.
Were both of them on the phone, Rochelle and Andrea? And then tell us what happens after that.
After Miss Officer Lamy disconnects, she calls back a couple minutes later telling me that she had been dispatched to another situation, that she had to attend to that one, and she let me know to call 911 again to dispatch and let them know that she was to come back out and that I was told to call to give her dispatch back.
And so she tells you she's been dispatched again. When you get close, just call again.
Yes.
And what did you do?
When I got closer, I called again.
Did you call her personal phone directly or?
I called 911.
Okay. And what happened?
I called 911, let them know that I was closer. I let them know that I was in the area and that I didn't go to the house. And that I was told by an officer that had already came out to call 911 again to have her dispatch, and that she would be fairly close, and that to wait for her to come in.
And what did you do?
I waited
And where were you waiting at?
outside of across by my cul-de-sac.
And tell us what happens after that.
I waited a little longer, and then I called again. And when I called again, I let them know that I had been waiting. At this time, I didn't know how long I was waiting. I had dozed off for a second. So when I called back, I let them know, or I say that I've been waiting for about an hour. The dispatcher gets my information. He informs me that he do see the calls, the prior calls, and that someone was on their way. And then someone just would be around.
Okay. When you doze off, were your aunt still on the phone?
They were.
Okay. And so you've talked to 911 once. They dispatched Officer Lamy. You talked to Officer Lamy, explained the situation when she was there waiting for you. You talked to her again when she went to dispatch somewhere else. You called 911 again when you got there. You fell asleep for a while and called 911 again.
I did.
And they said they would dispatch somebody.
They did.
And then what happened after that?
And when I was on the phone with my aunts, I didn't look at my alarm system. I'm looking at the cameras. I didn't notice that the camera that was in my bedroom had been turned around. So I didn't trigger my alarm system, my other alarm system, to have their dispatcher reach out to me and ask me if I needed authorities.
And did your alarm, did that work?
It did.
And what happened?
The dispatcher called me, asked me if I needed assistance. I did inform her that I wanted her to dispatch police officers and that I needed to be escorted into my home.
Okay. And then approximately how much longer did you wait for someone to be dispatched?
I called again after that. That's when I talked to the female officer.
Okay.
Told her about my kids being in the home and that I was concerned about the well-being. I didn't know what was going on in my home and that Devontae was mad and I didn't know if my kids were okay or not. Yeah.
Okay. And what happens after that?
I leave from the parking spot that I was at and I leave out of leave out of the area to flag down a police officer.
And did you find the police officer to flag down?
I did.
And who was that?
Officer Cross was parked. I flagged him down and asked him to leave out me back.
Okay. And did he follow you back?
He did.
And tell us what happens after that.
He followed me back. We arrived at my home. I got out of the car. He gets out his car. He asked me, tell him about the text. I told him I was receiving threatening text messages. He knocks on the door. He asks Devontae to come out. He doesn't. I didn't inform him that I have a fire. He asked me, is there any weapons in the home? I tell him, no, there isn't. If anything, it's a kitchen. He's using a kitchen utensil. I have my firearm on me. He asked me to place my firearm in the car. I do so. At this point, Officer Lamy is walking up. They asked me to unlock the door and step back. I did so.
Can I ask you, Ms. Johnson, why did you wait so long for authorities to escort you or be with you at the house?
Because I was scared to enter.
Okay. Now, tell us what happens after that. You unlock the door. Officer Laney asked DeMonte to come out. Tell us what happens next.
It takes him a while to come out. He then comes out with my daughter, my newborn, in his arms.
Now, you were showing Officer Laney surveillance video of what was happening inside the house at some point.
All right, she is now talking.
Across. What were you showing him?
I was showing him moving around at home.
Was it DeMonte moving around? Could you tell from the surveillance? And did he have the baby in his arms when he was moving around in the home?
No, he didn't.
But when the officer, when you unlocked the door and Officer Laney asked him to come out, he came out with the 2-month.
He did.
And approximately what time is it, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. And so when he comes out, what's going through your mind? What happens?
I immediately go into parenting mode of the well-being of my daughter being outside at 2 months, half naked, sweater diaper, no head, and 60-degree weather in November.
And what happens after that?
I asked him, can he ask him to put my daughter in home?
And did Officer Krause instruct Mr. Smith to give you your daughter so you could take her in the house?
He does.
And did he follow the officer's instructions?
He did.
Now, tell us what happens between you and DeMonte while the officers are there.
After I asked for him to give me my baby so I could take her in the house, he then goes to say, BICCH, this is my baby too. You wasn't worried about her, he was out all night being a thot, effing men. He just started to become disrespectful. I responded to his disrespect, telling him that his name isn't under the birth certificate and technically it's not his daughter. He calls me a stripper, I calls him broke.
Now, were you scared at that point?
I was still scared, but I felt like I was able to respond to his disrespect.
Why was that?
Because the cops were there and I didn't think that they would leave us alone.
And you had put your firearm in the car.
I did.
Can I ask you, you had your firearm on you when he was threatening you. You could have just gone to your house with your firearm. Why would you call police?
Because I never would have thought it. I called the police to protect me. I was never thinking of using my firearm at all.
So tell us what happens after. So you and him argue back and forth. We've all seen it. You've been here through the trial. We've all seen it. And then tell us what happens as the argument is ensuing and police officers are about to leave. Tell us what happens.
Officer Laney asked me a question. She asked me, she's telling me that he stays here. She's asking me, how does he, or something about him staying there. And I told her, and explained to her that he had just got out of the Cape County jail and that I was allowing him to stay there. He has no residency there. Let her know that his name is not on the lease, nothing. As I'm telling her that she's trying to tell me something else. So it appeared that I was like talking over her, but I was just finishing my explanation of him not having residency there asking them to remove him from the household. Officer Cross then tells me he can go back inside with the baby. He goes inside. I'm standing in the threshold of the doorway. As he walks past me, he tells me when the cops leave, he's gonna beat my ass.
And were you on the phone with someone?
I never got off the phone. My parents was on the phone the entire time.
Were both of them on the phone?
Yes, they were.
And that's Rochelle Newell, Andrea Gonzalez.
Yes.
And he says when the cops leave, I'm gonna beat your ass.
Yes.
And do you inform the cops of what he's just said?
Immediately.
And what do they do? What's their response?
I asked them, I said, did y'all just hear him? I repeated what he just said. They didn't say, I don't believe they said anything.
And what happens after that?
I asked, continuing to speak as of, okay, so what am I to do in a matter of defending myself? I I didn't say if I shoot him out of self-defense because he keeps putting his hands on me, then I held accountable.
And what's the response?
Also, then he says, if you do that, just make sure you're able to articulate it in court.
And what do the officers do next?
Walk.
And DeMonte's in the house.
Yes.
And they leave you at the house.
Yes.
Tell us what happens after that.
In the midst of them walking off and me being in the threshold of my doorway, my dogs got out. My dogs walked down the street, running down the street. My Nala is now in the doorway, helped me get the dogs back in the home. I tend to go up the street to get my dogs, I bring them back. I advise my dogs to go in the house prior to going inside my home. I do go to my car to retrieve my firearm and a tie rod.
Now, Ms. Johnson, you said that you were licensed to carry.
I am.
Tell us what it means to be licensed to carry.
To be able to hold a firearm and force defense areas like for safety precautions.
What are requirements you had to go through to obtain a license to carry?
FBI clearance.
Anything else?
No, Georgia didn't. New Georgia don't. You don't need a permit, a license to carry in the state of Georgia.
So.
Well, background check. I did with FBI clearance.
Okay. So you go outside to get your dogs run outside. You go outside to get your dogs. After you grab it, put your dogs in the house. Tell us what happens after that.
I go in the home. My daughters are downstairs in the living room area. I hand both of them home. I tell them, well, now I hand the phone. I hand Marie the phone. I tell them to call the cops, let them know they're scared.
Why did you give your daughters a phone? So you've contacted 911 multiple times. Police have responded. They've been at the scene. You've talked to them. Now you have your daughters calling 911. Why do you have your daughters calling 911?
Because the cops didn't hear from me, so I felt like they would hear from a minor, a child.
And you tell both of them to call 911.
I did.
And what do you do next?
I didn't go upstairs to retrieve my 2-month-old baby.
That's the youngest baby. You go upstairs to get the 2-month-old.
Yes,
And you got the tire iron in your hand?
I do.
All right, and tell us what happens next.
I get upstairs. As I get to the top of the steps, DeMonte is coming out of the bedroom. I then back into the hallway. He's coming there. He's telling me, police ASB for calling the cops. He says, I'm gonna beat you at A again when the cops leave. I tell him if he hit me, I show him the tire rod. I said, if you hit me, I'm gonna hit you with this.
Will you step down for us, Ms. Johnson? Just want to be able to get a visual. Let's say, I'm you. I got the tie rod in my hand. You come up the stairs and your bedroom is this way, right? I'm sorry, show me again.
So, like I said, my
The bedroom is right here. Okay. And so you're coming up the stairs.
Like I said, he's coming out of the bedroom.
Okay. Now, what was your 2-month-old like?
I don't know.
Okay.
I was from the bedroom.
So let's do it this way so the jury has a view. So let's say this is the hallway. And,
So I come up the steps.
okay.
He's coming out of the bedroom, I'm waking up, I have the tire around my hands.
And at this point, he's saying things to you.
Please AB, when the cops leave, they're gonna be my aid. I tell him, if you hit me, I'm gonna hit you with the tire rod. That's coming at me and say, we would that, I'm really F you up, stop playing with me, because, and then punches at me, I goes to hit, swing the metal rod goes, then charges at me, I just figure, I should have something.
And you say he charges at you. Like
Like dead.
Okay.
I just said,
Okay. What was going through your mind, Ms. Johnson? I know it's difficult to go back to that moment, but tell me what was going through your mind at that moment.
I knew he was going to get me.
But why did you feel that you had to defend yourself?
I couldn't beat him. I mean, I knew he was going to hurt me. I didn't call the cops. The cops left. I knew he was mad about that. I knew he was mad about me being out. He said he was going to beat me. He's done it before. I just knew it was gonna happen.
And he lunged at you.
He did.
And at that moment, you just pulled your gun out.
I did.
One shot.
Yes, sir.
And you've heard the recording that you say, Bob.
I did.
Tell us what was going through your mind.
At that point, I can't even tell you. Honestly, I just know I shot, and it was just like, I know, I don't know. Like, I just know that I had to defend myself.
And where were your daughters at?
They were downstairs.
And do you remember telling your daughters, tell him he hit me?
As we were walking out, I do recall saying that as we were like, once we got outside, I do recall saying that.
But you told the detective he didn't hit you.
Yes.
He just came at you, lunged at you.
Yes, I told him he didn't hit me that day. Yes.
And you felt like you had to do it to defend yourself from being injured by him again.
Yes.
And did you go down and give the police a statement?
I did.
Did you fully cooperate?
I did.
Did you tell them what had happened?
I did.
Did you give them access to your cell phone?
I did.
And what about the surveillance video in your house?
I gave them access to it as well.
And when you went outside, what did you say to the police who were still waiting outside?
That I told y'all he was going to do it.
And what happened after that?
I was handcuffed and put into a police car.
So you didn't have your phone or anything on you at that point?
I didn't.
Did you ever go back to that location?
I didn't.
Did anybody in your family ever go back to that location?
They went once. They went to retrieve some of my items for my daughters because my daughters was transported to Philadelphia. Once they got there, my house was flooded. My cameras was ripped out of the wall. Everything was damaged. My roof was caved in. So it wasn't nothing really salvageable.
Ms. Johnson, how did it make you feel knowing what had happened?
It still makes me feel the same way. I never wanted it to happen. I didn't intend for it to happen. I didn't mean for it to happen.
But in that moment, you felt like you had to defend yourself.
I did.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Judge, may we take a break for Ms. Johnson?
Yes. 5 minutes. Okay.